Recording in progress.
Okay, I'm going to call the September 27th Administration and Finance Committee for September 27th. I said that 2022 to order. Is now 6 o'clock. And Ms. Carilla, if you will call the roll, please. Here.
McBride. Here. Livingston. Here. Joe Walker. Jessica. Here. We have a quorum.
And if you could fix the agenda on the screen so we can see those participants that have joined us on Zoom. There we go. Councilman Walker, Joseph Walker is supposed to be there.
He is.
Okay. I'm here. Say here. Okay. First order of business after the roll is number 2, the approval of the minutes.
A move. Second.
A motion and a second. There are no discussion or changes. Madam Clerk, if you'll call for the vote.
Malinowski.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Joe Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next, approval of the agenda number 3. Any changes, additions, deletions of any type?
Sure.
No. Okay. Call the vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Malinowski.
Yes.
Do we get a motion? I'm
moved,
sorry.
Chair.
Can
Second.
do that. Okay. We have a motion and a second.
Malinowski.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Joe Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item 4A, items for action. The Information Technology Enterprise Resource Planning Software. This is a marathon item going from pages 11 through 186. Anybody that had a tough time falling asleep should have been looking at this. I'll entertain a motion, or if someone wants to ask any questions, go right ahead.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can we get a little briefing?
There we go. We get a little briefing. Who wants to give that to us?
Sure.
Administrator Brown?
I'll ask the IT team to step to the podium, but I'll give you just a brief summary. I would ask that you would turn your attention to page 13 of your packet. You mentioned that this was a marathon document. If you look back when the last time the county actually procured a system of this sort, it was 2007. So marathon.
I saw that.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. So what we're doing here is looking to not only update the county's resources, but looking to bring our services into compliance with the needs that we have in these agencies, both human resources and both the finance department. And this product that we have asked council to purchase and now bringing back the agreement would do that. So what you have before you is the details of the product that represent software that would allow us to both handle human resources initiatives and financial services initiatives, both in an efficient manner and an effective manner, utilizing software that is workable. What we have now is not workable. We're actually still, in some instances, using paper to do services that in this day and age you would not think of. So this not only brings us up to date, but it really puts us in a position to where we're not necessarily looking to do something like this for an extended period of time. So with that being in general the case, any details of technology specific that you would like to know about, I do have the IT team here present to talk about some of the nuances of the software that we're looking to acquire, and that we do hope that the council will, this committee will approve staff's recommendation, and ultimately county council will do that as well. That will be the general summary from the administrator. Would you like to hear now from the IT staff, members of ANF?
Ms. Maggie.
Thank you. I just had a question, and Ms. Sherry Brown, you can determine who can best address it. But it states in here on page 17, Richland County will be the first in South Carolina to partner with this group. And I just wanted, I guess, a little background on that as to why we would be the first. Is there another provider that others are working with? And is there a reason that we maybe picked this one over ones that others are using in our state? And then also, does that provide any, I don't want to say compatibility issues, but when working with others in the state, if we're on a different system, are we at, does that put us at a hindrance, or does that make sense?
It does. So in terms of working with other agencies, what we have now does not allow us to do that. So not saying that we won't be able to do it, but this would definitely be more in line with the type of product that other agencies are utilizing. We did review other services, and the reason why that we chose this particular vendor, it's really a couple of reasons. I'm going to let IT talk about the details, but the reason why we chose that it was okay to be the first is because sometimes in these scenarios where you have an organization that's looking to get their foot into a community, you are able to then capitalize on services that they provide and pricing that they provide so that they can then get a foothold. So, but in terms of the compatibility with what we were comparing to, they have everything just as much as the other products that we looked at. So, but I like to have the IT staff speak in a specific language that may be more clear to you about some things you may know. So whether that's Brian, would you like to come up and address the council, please? This is one of our division managers within the IT department. If you could just introduce yourself and then tell council what it is that you generally are responsible for, and then answer the question, please, sir.
Sure, no problem. Good evening. My name's Brian Fitzgerald. I work in the IT group with Dale and Tim and others. I help manage the business systems group. To give you just a little bit more background, we've been working on this for about a year or so. We established the need and put together a team of about 7 or 8 of us from finance, HR, and IT. And we've been evaluating products for the last year or so. The need is that the system we have in both HR and finance are just inadequate. They provide a lot of frustrations for us from a technology perspective. The maintenance and ongoing upgrades are very, very frustrating. And they really just don't meet the basic needs of our finance and HR offices. So what we did was put together a needs analysis. We started doing market research, evaluated the market, and yes, the vendor we've eventually chosen here is not in a local government in South Carolina, but they are in other agencies like other organizations. I think MUSC and others are subscribers of the Workday product. Workday is a very established HR and finance systems provider. I think more than 50% of the Fortune 500 is using Workday. And while they haven't really targeted local governments, they are starting to do so. And I think you'll see some of the other leading local governments move in this direction.
Thank you.
Sure.
Livingston, and then, right.
15-year agreement, is that common, and why would that be so long?
Yes, sir, it is common. Replacement of these systems takes time and effort, and often these agreements can be 10 or 15 or more years. The last time we did this was 2007. I think the time before that was probably in the early 90s. So it's something that you want to commit to for a long period of time. And it also, I think, provides us some leverage in the contracting.
One of the main concerns in the past was making sure you had a system that everybody can easily communicate, whether it's human resources or whomever. So this system is going to allow everyone to be on the same page across departments or whatever and communicate with each other?
Yes, sir. It's a centralized system. So not only will staff on premise here be able to access the system, but another benefit of the product being in the cloud is that people can access it from home, from any device. We experience a lot of frustrations now with people having to VPN into the network to get access to their basic HR and finance needs.
McBride?
Yes, since this system deals with finances, would it also deal with the grant programs?
Yes, it does have a grant component. I think that we'll probably supplement with some other grant systems. I don't know if want to have someone else answer the grants question, but yes, it does have a grants component to it, and all of the financial systems from accounts payable to receivable, even time and attendance is all centralized in this system.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, why was this company chosen over any? Well, first off, how many people were looked into? How many companies?
When we did our market research, we started with maybe a list of 6 or 7. Over the past year, we've narrowed that list down, just doing market research. We did some vendor demos. We also called references. Eventually, we landed on 2 vendors that we narrowed it down and did negotiations with full demos. And so it was a process, but we did evaluate a number of vendors, yes.
Okay, for the Attorney Wright, I always saw when we did contractual discussions, they took place in executive session. And this looks to me like a contractual discussion. So I'm wondering why it's being done just in an open committee meeting.
Well, I think there were questions that were asked for me that if there was going to be legal advice regarding a contract, specifically, I would do it in executive session. There is a particular, specifically with this one, that I would want to talk to counsel before it was approved about.
Okay, and also, this agenda has been made public, correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
So the fact it's been made public, the different areas that state confidential, I guess they're not really confidential. It didn't make any difference whether they remain confidential or not, correct?
We did talk to the vendors about that, and they were aware that this would be on the agenda.
Okay, then I think in the future, we need to strike those words from it. Also, you said this has been taking place for over a year, I believe. So if it's been taking place for over a year, I really don't understand why counsel can't be brought in, be it quarterly or semi-annually, and given updates so that we don't get a package with this much information on a Thursday and 5 days later expect to have to make an educated decision on it with all the technical stuff that's in here. Now, I would like to ask, I guess I'll ask your general back there, Mr. Welch, did he, have you reviewed everything that's in here, all this information that they say they're going to provide us or not provide us? Or somebody from your department has reviewed it?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
All right. So you're okay with all this?
Absolutely, sir.
All right. I just want to make sure so that if something goes south, we know who to go to. Okay.
You got it.
All right. Now, another question I have here, I don't care who answers it, but there's a payment schedule table on page 13. And that payment table shows years 1 through 15 on anniversary dates, and it shows increases of varying dollar amounts. Now, I noticed somewhere else in this document, it did say that there would be a 2% increase per year. Well, if you multiply these figures by 2%, they far exceed 2%. So what are those increases?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Abhi Deshpande for the record. So the 2%, the way that the vendor structure that payment schedule is, when we enter into the price negotiations with them, we gave them some of the, based on our budgetary threshold, like we gave, like, this is our budget, we will need to meet into this particular limit for the overall period of contract. And with that, even though the initial, their first pricing model was 2% increase over year over, but however, that the total amount was considerably more than what our budget was. So the way that the price negotiation happen, they constructed, they say like they will meet our bottom line as well as our annual average cost or annual average budget for over next 15 years. And that's how it doesn't really matter for them to how to construct, how would they make it with the payment schedule. However, the bottom line, our focus was to just meet that our overall budget for the 15 years, as well as the annual average cost for that product.
Okay, so that 2% was just there as a touchy-feely, good-sounding thing, but we're actually paying 10 or 11% more per year. It's kind of like, seems like we said.
Yeah,
right, this is what we've got to bet. Let me just show you my cards now.
It's just because you feel that 10 to 11% because our year 2 payment is much lower than what they had initially quoted us. So that's why now, if we had gone with their initial payment schedule, then their second year number would have been much more higher than what we have right now. That number would have been around 700-800.
Okay, I'll just go to 2 more questions. One on page 13 under the system implementation project fees. The third item says workday training and delivery assurance, $322,000. We're paying them $322,000 for them to assure us they're going to deliver this?
Yes, sir. The workday was started by software developers, and their primary focus has been developing robust, great, software. And they've decided early on that implementation was not their focus or their background. And so they decided they would allow other trusted partners to do the implementation. But they also want to keep a close eye on those implementation firms to assure that they're doing their job properly, provide quality assurance, oversight of the project. And so that's what that amount is for.
So they're recommending these other firms, and we got to pay them to keep an eye on them.
Well, they'll be actively involved in the quality assurance and insurance that the product is delivered as promised. So they have a vested interest in the success of the project. They have a very high customer satisfaction rating. And I think part of that is due to the fact that they stay heavily involved throughout the project to ensure that these, consulting vendors are doing their job and doing it right.
Hey, Brian, the last question I have, and this may not be for you to answer, but I'm asking you because you're standing there.
Sure.
All right. On page 22 of the agenda where it says statement of work for the workday deployment services, that starts out by saying that it is made effective the 3rd day of October 2022. If this committee were to recommend approval, this will not get to council until their next meeting, which is October 4th. So that is a date that would need to be changed. And the fact council would not approve it at the earliest until the evening of the 4th, which means we could not enter into a contract until the 5th, the next business day. And then further down, the last sentence of that first paragraph says services are scheduled to begin on October 3rd. the start date. Again, that I would believe would have to coincide with the first line and would have to be October 5th anyway.
Yes, sir. We can definitely make sure that those get changed. I think the intent is to start the project around October 15th or so, after council has approved it.
Okay. And all these yellow line things where there's no information, that will be done by the time it gets to council.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions. Is anyone else? Ms. Mackey?
Mr. Chair, if it's appropriate, I'd like to make a motion to go in executive session to receive legal advice related.
Get out there.
Hello? Okay. A motion to receive legal advice related to this contract.
Okay. And that motion for legal advice, Mr. Wright, you need executive session for that?
Yes.
All right. So a motion, we got the motion for executive session. Is
Yes,
there a
sir.
second? And a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Malinowski,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
No.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
And Mr. Wright, will you need folks from the IT department there or not?
They can be. I don't have a problem with them being there.
Second.
Motion in a second. Madam Clerk?
Malinowski,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're now out of executive session. There was no action taken during executive session. We received legal advice from the county attorney regarding a contractual matter that we are discussing involving the IT department. Administrator Brown?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. What we'll do is I'll reach back out to Workday through IT and address the concerns. And what I would ask, Mr. Chair, is that if this committee would still consider this item to move forward with the understanding that we will work out those details. And if for whatever reason we cannot work those details out, then I'll make sure full council is aware of that and have the opportunity to make a decision that they feel is best appropriate.
Thank you, Administrator Brown.
Motion
Any
to
other
approve.
discussion?
Second.
Just want to move approval for the recommendation from the administrative round. to move
We've
this
got, all
forward.
right, we've got a motion and a second from Mr. Joe Walker for the approval of this as mentioned by Administrator Brown. Madam Clerk, if you'll call for the vote, please.
Malinowski,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item number 5, A, B, and C are all items pending analysis, no action required. Staff, the administrator and his staff has given us information at the end of each one of those items as to where we stand right now and what staff is doing to get these items back to the committee and resolved. So that brings us to item 6, adjournment.
A moment, Mr. Chair.
Second.
I'll second it.
Oh.
If there's no discussion, Madam Clerk?
Malinowski,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone here and the Zoom meeting. Councilman Walker also.